I mean, I consider that a victory for our side. And I don't think you can go on with it. So then I think things are looking good here in America on that score. The Vietnamese, I wouldn't have believed, and as strongly as I feel after that experience about the necessity to get Congress to be a part of the decision-making process, so that they can, cannot dodge the issue. I'm not trying to make them feel powerful. I don't want them to wash their hands of it after we get our troops over there. But I don't really believe the Vietnamese. They had a better, more complicated rigmarole than our not declaring war for the reason they did not honor the Geneva Conventions. I'd have to go back to the books and study that. But it's a very intricate argument about a certain article. It's so intricate, it sort of reminds, Henry Kissinger once told a story about a guy that, he said, I feel like the guy that was asked a question about the Schleswig-Holstein confusion in the 18th century. The guy said, there were only 3 of us that ever understood it. One is dead, one is in a lunatic asylum, and I can't remember. And that's the way I am about that Vietnamese answer. Give me a half a day and I could bring it up. But in general, I'm not trying to put you down or make short, I think you got a good point. And we do need, I think, the soldiers, you and I and all of us servicemen, deserve the constitutional idea of the Congress being the last word on going to war. They're the closest representatives we have, and for my money, we've got it now. We didn't in Vietnam, but I think we have now.
Right up here.
Sir, I'm Midshipman First Class Dromsky. My question is a bit of an offshoot from Mr. Everidge's. In response to exterior political pressures, many of the indoctrination programs in the military, stemming from Parris Island all the way up to the service academies, have been fundamentally changed and softened as far as allowable physical and mental demands. Do you think that this is symptomatic of societal maturation, or is it acquiescence to a self-indulgent, softening, and self-serving society?
Well, we have the pressures. So many of these are good things. I think, I know the survival schools periodically have inroads made. The guy claims, after he's out of the service that he's got a back problem that occurred, such and such a thing, and then the congressman. I think we're keeping up with them. I think the survival schools are hands-on. I'm happy that I think the Naval Academy and the other service academies are giving the plebes the right kind of an outlook on life, and it's a constant battle. But I don't see it as the end of the world. I think we're coming along. Right.
Let's go back over here.
Yes, sir. Midshipman Fourth Class Del Grosso. So there's a gentleman you probably heard of, or most likely in your case you've probably read about him. His name is Dr. Viktor Frankl. And Dr. Viktor Frankl was he was a psychologist in Austria at the outbreak of World War II. And he was placed in the Nazi concentration camp for the duration of the war. And later, after his experiences, he wrote them down in a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, he mentioned that when he observed his fellow prisoners, and the ones who survived, he said, were almost always the ones who had a purpose. They had someone they wanted to see, or they had some type of purpose that they want to survive for. And almost always the people who died were people who said they no longer expected anything from life. And the people who survived, which was only about 1 in 20 in Auschwitz and Dachau, he made those observations. And I was just wondering what you had to say and how, if you observed those same things in your POW experiences, and also if you could tell us how you think that power of purpose could be, we could use that through our lives here in a normal life outside POW, sir.
Well, that's a good question. The centerpiece of my prison experience, and I think Jack and Bill and Denver would probably agree, much to our good fortune, although we were often in solitary, was the comradeship. That was such a binding force that it was overpowering. I was not prepared for the kind of, there's purpose in that. I mean, you know, one for all and all for one. Maybe it was even peaked up because we were hammered, and you know, our rough environment augmented that. So that was the purpose. What was the highest value in prison was a frequent question of mine from the shoot-downs, and I had just kind of a spontaneous, unconscious answer. But I think it's got the guy next door. You've got to protect him. You've got to, you know. And it's just, it sounds crazy when you're dormed up here with a whole bunch of guys where you know, you're at each other's throats, but you get separated and get alone, and you put a little barrier between you, and that's the cohesiveness that really makes life worthwhile. I don't really advocate any sort of a doctrinal, you know, prescribed purposes. One of the best statements of that was said to. I think it was Jean-Paul Sartre, didn't want to excuse the expression, but he was in one of those camps too, and either he said to the Catholic priest or the Catholic priest said to him the first 2 days he was there, he said, remember, the important thing in here is not what they do to you, but what you do with what they do to you. That's another purpose.
Dean, you got a question over here? I'm sorry. Where am I? Right back here.
Sir, Midshipman 4th Class Gray. How do you think the Iraqis' treatment of our POWs compares to your experience in Vietnam, sir?
I'm just looking at a little peek. I'm looking at those 4 guys that looked like another case of the same. But that's a small sample. And they got, you know, potential for lots more devastating things. I wouldn't be so scared of being wired to a target as I would be to be out there without anybody on my side for 2 or 3 months. That's a problem. It gets to be a real problem if you're isolated for a couple of years. Who knows what they're up to? So far, the men that you know, they made all the same. It's this kind of funny lingo, this a third world dictatorship, peace talk. You know, the peaceful this and the peaceful that. And that's the same stuff we had in Vietnam.
Right up here.
Sir, Midshipman 4th Class Philbeck. Sir, I know that the views of the press often change along with popular opinion, but up to this point in the Gulf War, do you feel that the media attention has helped or hindered the situation of the POWs and their position now, sir?
In the Gulf? Oh, okay. I think it helped them. I think that's what, you know, there was an outrage that I think Saddam read. You know, I read in the New York Times a couple of days ago that there'd be no more broadcasts. I don't, you know, take that for what it's worth, but I think if anything, to get, you know, to tell the world that you're doing this to people is to the advantage of the guys getting hammered. We'd done anything if we could have gotten our problem out on the street. Everything was on the QT for the first 3 or 4 years we were in there.
Right over here on crutches.
Sir, Midshipman 2nd Class Landreth. Sir, I know a lot of us are kind of offended by the idea of active duty military personnel claiming to be conscientious objectors as soon as things started to look like they were dangerous. And I was wondering if you could offer your opinions on that subject, sir.
Well, I think they're either cowards or stupid.